We all have a story that we tell ourselves about who we are. But what happens when that story starts holding us back? Well, today we're going to dive into the science and psychology of self-esteem. We're going to break down what it really is and, more importantly, how we can actually improve it. So let's just start right here, because this is the heart of it all. We all have this narrative constantly running in our heads about who we are, what we're capable of. So just take a second and ask yourself, is the story you're telling yourself true? And maybe even more important, is it helping you or is it getting in your way?
Okay, so if we're going to improve it, we first have to know what we're talking about, right? The term self-esteem gets tossed around all the time, but what does healthy self-esteem actually look and feel like, according to the people who've studied it? I love this definition from Dr. Glenn Schiraldi. He calls it a realistic, appreciative opinion of oneself. The key words there are realistic and appreciative. See, this isn't about thinking you're perfect or being arrogant. It's just about holding a fair and, a kind opinion of yourself. And this leads to such a crucial point from Dr. Schiraldi. Our core worth is something we're born with. It's not tied to your job, how much money you make, or what other people think of you. It's this fundamental value that we all have just by being here. It's completely independent of all that external stuff. So getting that our worth is inherent, that's step one. The next part is learning how to deal with that inner story we mentioned. It's kind of like becoming the editor of your own internal monologue. This quote from meditation teacher Alan Logos, it's so simple, but wow, is it powerful. So many of us get caught in this trap of believing our negative self-talk is just fact. But mindfulness teaches us to just step back and observe those thoughts without having to buy into them as the absolute truth. So how do we actually do this? Well, the sources point to a pretty clear three-step process. First, you've got to become aware of what's going on in your head. Second, you actively work to change that narrative. And third, you back it all up with action. Let's break those down. Step one is really just about noticing. When that critical inner voice starts up, you don't have to fight it. Just gently acknowledge it. You can literally say to yourself, oh, there's that thought again. This simple act creates a little bit of space, and that space takes away the thought's power. You start to realize, hey, I'm not the thought. I'm the one who's hearing the thought. Now, this is what's so cool about this whole process, this idea that negative self-talk is learned. And if these thought patterns were learned, guess what? They can be unlearned. A really great tool for this is affirmations, where you consciously choose and repeat new beliefs. So instead of that old track of I'm not good enough, you start practicing something like I am capable and I'm a person of worth. And look, this isn't just some wishful thinking. There's real science to back it up. Research from Dr. Thomas Boyce found that something called fluency training, which is basically just quickly writing down positive things about yourself, was actually linked to a drop in symptoms of depression. So actively practicing positive self-talk can make a real, measurable difference. And finally, we lock in our worth with our own actions. This means figuring out your non-negotiables, those core values you just won't compromise on. It means setting clear boundaries. And this one is huge. It means keeping the promises you make to yourself. Think about that. Every single time you follow through on something you said you'd do, even if it's small, you're sending a powerful message to your brain that says, hey, I am reliable. I am worth the effort. So does this stuff actually work? Well, a 2022 study on college students gave us a really fascinating look at this. They found that a standard lecture and an interactive group session both boosted self-esteem, but only the interactive group work also increased self-acceptance. That's a really key difference. It tells us that while just learning the concepts is good, it's the actively doing the work that leads to that deeper, more lasting change. Rewriting that inner story is absolutely essential. But you pair that with real-world action, that's where the magic really happens. Because at the end of the day, confidence isn't just a feeling, it's something you build, one action at a time. And one of the most powerful and proven ways to do that is exercise. So many studies have shown a direct link between physical activity and higher self-esteem. And it's more than just physical health, right? It's about showing up for yourself and getting tangible proof of what your body can do. So just how strong is this link? I want you to consider this number, 38. That's how many different studies were packed into one major meta-analysis, which is like a study of studies, all looking at how physical activity affects young people's self-concept. And what did that massive analysis of 38 studies and almost 3,000 people find? Well, the results were crystal clear. physical activity had a significant positive effect on their general self-concept and their feelings of self-worth. It's just a powerful, evidence-based way to build confidence from the outside in. Okay, so beyond taking care of yourself physically, there's another really powerful action that shifts the focus outward completely. Being of service to other people can be a surprisingly effective way to build up your own sense of value.
So why does this work so well? Well, according to Dr. David Simonson, when you go help out at a shelter or volunteer, you're creating tangible evidence of your own value. It's not just a thought anymore. It's a real-world action that proves you have something important to contribute. It gets you out of your own head and into the world. And all of this brings us to our final and maybe most important section. All of these strategies, the mindfulness, the affirmations, the actions, they're all just tools for one single purpose: to help you recognize the worth that's already there. This leads us to what might be the most critical skill of all: learning to separate who you are from what happens to you. A mistake, a setback, losing a job, those are just events. They're circumstances. They are not and never will be the definition of you. This quote from Dr. Schiraldi just says it all, doesn't it? Failure doesn't change core worth. Your value is stable. It's unconditional. And knowing that gives you this secure foundation that lets you grow and take risks, not from a place of fear, but from a place of real inner security. And I think that's the big takeaway here. Improving your self-esteem isn't a finish line you cross and then you're done. It's an ongoing practice. It's a lifelong commitment to self-compassion, to challenging those old stories, and to choosing actions that line up with the truth of your inherent value. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Building that self-trust, it all starts small. What is one promise, it can be big, it can be tiny, that you can make and keep to yourself this week? That could be the very first step in rewriting your entire story.